Welcome back to another chilling episode. Tonight we dive into two spine-tingling true stories of food deliveries that took a terrifying turn after dark. Imagine the anticipation of a late-night craving, the convenience of a simple order, and the comfort of your own home. Now picture that comfort shattered, replaced by the bone-chilling realization that something sinister lurks behind the seemingly innocent act of delivering a meal. These are the stories that will make you think twice before ordering in after dark. Get ready to delve into the shadows as we explore the dark side of food delivery, where every ring of the doorbell could be a harbinger of horror. The clock had just struck midnight, casting an eerie glow on the rain-slicked streets. John, a seasoned delivery driver, checked the address on his phone once again. 13 Harbinger Lane. An odd chill ran down his spine as he looked at the old, dilapidated Victorian house looming before him. It seemed to be swallowed by the darkness, the only light emanating from a flickering gas lamp at the wrought-iron gate. John cautiously approached the house, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew heavy with the smell of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic. He reached the front door, its paint peeling like scabs on an old wound. There was no doorbell, only a tarnished brass knocker shaped like a grotesque hand. John hesitated for a moment, a sense of foreboding washing over him. He knocked lightly, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence of the house. He waited, but there was no answer. He knocked again, this time louder, the sound echoing through the empty street. Still silence. Just as he was about to turn away, he heard it, a faint shuffling sound coming from inside the house. It was followed by a low moan, sending shivers down his spine. John took a step back, his heart pounding against his ribs. He considered for a moment calling the customer, but his phone showed no signal. He was completely cut off. Driven by a strange blend of duty and morbid curiosity, John decided to investigate. He turned the rusted handle and pushed the door open, a creak echoing through the unsettling silence. The smell intensified, a mix of dampness, decay, and something sickly sweet. The air inside was heavy and stagnant, thick with dust and the feeling of forgotten time. Cobwebs draped the hallway like macabre decorations. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he noticed something strange. There, at the end of the hallway, was a single flickering candle, casting long dancing shadows on the walls. John cautiously made his way down the hallway, each step echoing ominously in the silence. The shuffling sound came again, this time closer, followed by a low, guttural growl. His heart hammered in his chest, his hand instinctively reaching for the pepper spray attached to his keychain. As he neared the end of the hallway, the candlelight flickered, revealing a doorway leading into a dimly lit room. John peered inside, his breath catching in his throat. In the center of the room, a figure lay sprawled on the floor, their back to him. "Hello?" John called out, his voice barely a whisper. "Delivery?" The figure didn't move. John took a hesitant step into the room, his senses on high alert. The air was thick with the scent of decay. He took another step, then another, his heart pounding in his ears. He was close enough now to see that the figure was wearing a tattered nightgown. Long, greasy hair hid their face. "Sir?" "Ma'am?" John asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Are you all right?" As he reached out a hand to touch the figure's shoulder, it suddenly sprang to life. The figure leapt up, spinning around to face him. John stumbled back, a scream dying in his throat. The figure was nothing but a skeletal frame, its flesh rotted away, revealing bone and sinew beneath. Empty sockets stared back at him, the flickering candlelight dancing in their depths. The smell of decay was overpowering. John stood frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to comprehend what his eyes were seeing. Then, with a surge of adrenaline, he turned and ran. He didn't look back, the sound of his own panicked breaths echoing in his ears. He didn't stop running until he reached his car, fumbling with the keys in his haste to escape the horrors of Harbinger Lane. To this day, John can still smell the decay, still feel the chill of that house, and see the empty sockets of the figure staring back at him. He never returned to Harbinger Lane, and he never delivered after dark again. The experience left an indelible mark on his psyche, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the most mundane facades. Rain lashed against the windshield as Sarah, a college student making extra cash as a delivery driver, pulled up to the curb. The address on her phone led her to a run-down apartment complex on the outskirts of town, a place where shadows seemed to cling to the peeling paint and flickering streetlights cast an eerie orange glow. The order was simple: 2 pizzas, breadsticks, and a 2-liter of soda. A generous tip was promised for a quick delivery. She grabbed the thermal bag and stepped out into the night, the chilly air thick with moisture and the distant hum of traffic. The building loomed before her, a monument to neglect. Graffiti marred the walls and the faint smell of marijuana hung in the air. Sarah located the apartment number, 13B, at the end of a dimly lit hallway. The air hung heavy with the smell of stale cigarette smoke and something else she couldn't quite place. She knocked on the door, the sound swallowed by the silence. She waited, but there was no answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Still, silence. Just as she was about to leave the order at the door, she heard a voice, low and muffled, coming from inside. It seemed to be saying, "Come in." Hesitantly, Sarah pushed the door open. The apartment was dark, the only light spilling in from the hallway. The air was thick with the smell of incense and something else, something metallic and vaguely familiar. "Hello?" Sarah called out, her voice echoing strangely in the darkness. "Pizza delivery?" A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the faint light from the window. It was a man, tall and thin, wearing a dark hooded sweatshirt pulled low over his face. He didn't speak, just stared at her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "I have your pizzas," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. 2 pizzas, breadsticks, and a soda." The man didn't reply. He simply held out his hand, his face still hidden in the shadows of the hood. Sarah placed the order in his hand, her fingers brushing against his cold, clammy skin. "That will be $23.50, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man didn't move. He just continued to stare at her, his silence unnerving. "Sir?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you all right?" The man slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill and a $10 bill. He handed them to Sarah, his touch sending a chill down her spine. "Keep the change," he mumbled, his voice a low growl. Sarah took the money, her hand trembling. "Thank you," she said, backing away slowly. "Have a good night." She turned and hurried out of the apartment, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached the end of the hallway, she glanced back. The man was still standing there, watching her, his face still hidden in the shadows. Sarah rushed out of the building, her senses on high alert. As she got into her car, she noticed something strange. There, on the passenger seat, lay a single red rose. Its petals were a deep crimson, almost black, and its scent was overpowering, a cloying sweetness that made her head spin. Sarah stared at the rose, a cold dread creeping into her heart. She had never seen a rose like this before. It seemed wrong. Suddenly she remembered the smell in the apartment, the metallic scent that had been bothering her. It was the smell of blood. She threw the rose out the window and sped away, the image of the man in the shadows seared into her mind. The next day, Sarah saw a news report that made her blood run cold. There had been a murder in the apartment complex where she had made the delivery. The victim, a young woman found dead in her apartment, a single red rose clutched in her lifeless hand. The police had no suspects. Sarah never delivered to that part of town again. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been a hair's breadth away from something truly sinister, that the man in the shadows was still out there, lurking in the darkness, waiting for his next victim. So, the next time you order late-night takeout, remember these chilling tales. What seems like an ordinary convenience can quickly transform into a terrifying encounter. The darkness holds many secrets, and sometimes those secrets arrive at your doorstep, disguised as a simple delivery. If you enjoyed these creepy tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling stories. Stay safe out there, and remember, not every